I'm your host, Grayson Brulte. Welcome to another episode of SAE Tomorrow Today, a show about emerging technology and trends in mobility with leaders and innovators to make it all happen. On today's episode, we're absolutely honored to be joined by Phil McEwen, Vice President and General Manager, Commercial and Special Vehicles, North America, Continental Automotive. On today's episode, we'll discuss how Continental is industrializing components for autonomous trucking and why the executive leader for CONVAC, taking place in September. We hope you enjoy this episode. Phil, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me, GB.
It's great to have you here. The commercial space, especially in Class 8, is changing a lot, and there's a lot of hot topics. The hottest one that I'm personally interested in is autonomous trucking. A day goes by, you open the paper, you go on Reddit, autonomous trucking. Continental, how have you played in that space?
Well, we played for many years in this space as the run-up to commercial vehicle autonomous vehicles. What I believe is the key for Continental's future is that we're providing that industrialization step that allows autonomous to work. You know, the beginning, all the startups had a concept that was, and it's working on the vehicle, but getting into an industrialization level is what Continental really can do.
To me, there's a safety element there, but there's also a scalability element there. When you look at developing these parts for these trucks, do you have to retool a factory line? Do you create a new factory? How is Continental going to approach that?
All of the above. Actually, we have a new Texas facility for autonomous manufacturing of product, and that's been implemented there in New Brunswick, Texas.
When you look at the industrialization, is it inside of the vehicle, under the hood, and outside the vehicle, since a lot of these sensors are facing the elements? Are you looking at industrializing the whole package?
The whole package. And so it's cameras, radars, LiDARs, and also the under the hood, you know, with all the electronics, the high compute modules that required to do the calculations and the data that's coming from those sensors.
Do you have to develop, you're really good at developing things, so I'm curious, special housings because there's rocks on the highways or there's crashes on the highways? You have to develop special housings?
I love that question because that's what's in our wheelhouse, right? I mean, a truck is not a car, right? So the application of a truck for the first step is this truck may go 1 million miles, right? Or more. The average truck goes 1 million miles. And if you add autonomy to it, it's driving 24/7. Will that truck have to go further? Yes. And on top of that, what's the road conditions? I mean, you know the roads, right? If you drive in Pennsylvania, Michigan, or California, there's giant potholes and giant road debris. And that autonomous vehicle has to be ready for that and also be ready for an emergency situation where a fallback system would jump in and take control of the vehicle. And that's really the specialty of our truck group, is that we take automotive technology and we commercialize and industrialize it and get it and package it ready for truck and off highway. We're
going to have some fun here. We're going to go down the truck rabbit hole because there's a big difference between cars and trucks, as you're well aware.
Yes.
On the truck issue, you have vibrations, and you have a lot of vibrations. And vibrations can throw off calibration of sensors. How do you deal with the vibration issue?
And we designed that from the first step, right? Because the vehicle actually has a vibration profile. Some technologies didn't cut it in the first round of technology, like ultrasonics. We found difficulty implementing them in the Class 8 market. And so we had to go back from the drawing board and redesign that as well for some of our customers that wanted ultrasonic sensors. And that's something new that's coming from Continental in the future. So you really see that you have to start in the beginning and understand what you're working with. And that's a truck, right? That's not a car.
The traditional truck, 1 million plus miles autonomy, let's just do simple math and say 2+ million miles, so it will be autonomous. Are the sensors swappable? Because you're industrializing them, or use the term, you're hardening them, and at some point they could give out before the truck gives out. Are they going to be swappable at some point?
Yeah. So we're trying to keep what we can keep the same as so when you have mass production to reduce the cost of the vehicle, of course, is also a sensitive topic. We're trying to also carry over automotive technology that is easily swapped in to the truck market and meet the vibration and the million mile profile. So that that's the idea here. We try to carry over as much of the technology as we can and not change it unless we have to.
Prior to putting the sensors on a truck, do they have to go through a new testing regime inside of Continental? We have to put in through different tests that you would do a traditional vehicle, perhaps?
It's application specific usually, because we actually have to do also our own testing to verify what the OEM sees. And also, so we put a lot of miles, a lot of testing, and a lot of road conditions that we also test for.
Will Continental develop and industrialize the entire sensor suite or the autonomous driving stack, or are there certain parts that you specialize in that you'll accelerate doing?
Well, right now with the Aurora program, we've worked with them on the fallback system. But they're still using our sensor suite for their own AD component, autonomous driving component. So what we're specializing on further enhancing the safety of the vehicle is the fallback system on the Aurora program. So that's in the press releases that we have out today, and I'll share those links with you after the podcast. But really, the here is what I was trying to say is that like an airliner has multiple fallback systems. They have 2 hydraulic circuits per every accelerator. So in the truck system, we're doing the same thing. Aurora's taking the first system, and we're also supplying hardware for that. But on the fallback system is what we're bringing 100% to the vehicle, including software, so that allows this vehicle to make an emergency stop. If there's a problem with the primary system.
I'll put it in my terms that basically you're acting as a redundant system. Is that what's happening there?
Redundancy is key. And like I said, same as an airliner has redundancy, built into every system. We're doing the same thing now with Class A truck. 80,000 pound truck driving down the road. I think people want to make sure they're safe. And that's where Continental industrializing and the components and the system architecture with our partners allow us to make the difference in making autonomy work.
I've done a lot of work with the airlines over the years, including one of the largest airlines, and they were very kind. I got to go to a 747 teardown.
Wow.
And the miles and miles of wires that I saw, it was pretty cool and really interesting. And when they would break down that they had the avionics system, you had the flight controls, and they were very interesting to show me that the wires would never cross for the critical safety systems. They were all separated. If you look at from a truck standpoint, will your fallback system run not attached to the main driving system, or will it all be interconnected? And what is the best way to approach safety on that front?
Yeah, so I'm not the expert in the architecture and the fine details of how we're implementing with Aurora. Every OEM and every vehicle manufacturer is attending their own specification at some level right now. There is no commonality in these areas, so everybody has their own idea of safety. It has to meet a certain safety requirement. As long as we meet that requirement, that in the vehicle the government is mandating, we're trying to make sure we have a system that works in that arena and also be reliable, right? Because you can't have any blue screens, in your car driving down the road. So same thing here. Your vehicle has to work, and that's why they're really looking at different implementations of those technologies in a different way, and allowing us to find the best path with each OEM and each company like Aurora.
You're helping your partners, Aurora. You're helping your customers, the OEMs, prepare for a safe deployment of autonomous trucks. They're coming. Aurora's been very public. By the end of the year, they're going to start commercial operations. But before that, we have traditional trucking today that are on the road right now as we speak. There's trucks driving all over. What is Continental doing to help increase safety in the traditional trucking industry?
And that's the sweet spot, really, of what's happening today, right? Also the Aurora topic is very sexy and interesting in autonomous vehicles, but that implementation of autonomy is also helping us drive better technology into the level 1 and 2, what we call level 1 and 2 autonomous or safety systems, not autonomous, but actually in the safety system realm. And this gives us a great leg up, right? Because now we can take what we've learned on this autonomous system and say, how can we make the in-cab, in-driver system safer? And I think this is really the big thing that's happening right now in safety, is that we were taking that 80,000 pound truck and making it even more safe than ever before. And I think I really feel strongly about this, and I feel this is really great for safety in our marketplace and safer roads today.
How is Continental approaching that? Do you have historically a very good business in AEB on the passenger car side? Are you putting AEB or other safety technologies into traditional Class 8 trucks today?
Yes. And so radar, camera, fusion is really the highlight of what's coming next and what's on the vehicles today. That's been going through four or five different generations already. We make millions of sensors every day, and we're partnered with all the brake manufacturers and also the OEMs that put a whole system together and allow this truck to do some emergency stops, collision avoidance, and blind spot detection. Like in one of the regulations in Germany and Europe is that you make a right-hand turn and don't hit the bicycle on the side of you. That's the number one use case in Europe, where you see a lot of accidents with trucks.
That's outside the vehicle. I'm going to go back inside the vehicle now, because there's the common term is DMS, or driver monitoring system, is very hot topic, especially for commercial fleets. That's vans all the way up to trucks. What role do you see driver monitoring playing inside the cabin for traditional trucking? Yeah,
so this is for all levels of safety, not just autonomy. What you see is that driver behavior, driver monitoring, it's always a big brother thing. They don't like you watching them, but if we can keep it in the vehicle itself and make the vehicle interact with a better safety profile for the driver, I think it's a win. If the driver's falling asleep, we alert him. If the driver is having head nods and these expressions, if he's not hanging on to the steering wheel in maybe a level 3 chauffeur cruise or cruise control model that the truck is driving down the road on, this is something we can also alert on. There's lots of use cases here for improved safety, and that starts with driver monitoring as well.
What type of safety increases have your customers seen as they started implementing these technologies, both inside the cabin and outside the cabin?
I would say that it's becoming a requirement with fleets, and the fleets are dictating, and of course they're self-insured. So any way that they can, if they can see a business case to put those additional components on the vehicle and extra costs on the vehicle, they're getting a return someplace else, and that the fleets and almost. So think about it: if you would take a truck that's much safer, right, and it's really saving lives on the road. And then you're self-insured, or you're insured by a regular insurance company. Your insurance company, I can't imagine that they wouldn't say, "Wait a minute, you're not buying the most safe truck. We're going to raise your rates," right? So there's a giant business case here that we're seeing, and it's playing out in the marketplace today. Even when you buy a car, I would say, if I got to buy a new car for my daughters, I'm gonna say, hey, I want the one that can stop itself, and the one that's going to warn my daughter that an accident's about to happen, and make a proper determination. I think that technology is groundbreaking, and this is the safety profile that these insurance companies just can't ignore, and nor can the fleets. And now that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing that, and the pull through of those safety systems is becoming almost at a level of 100% in certain applications.
You have the insurance element, then on top of that, let's have fun. You have the reinsurance element, because if you're going to self-insure, then you're going to have a reinsurance backstop there. And you see Swiss Re's out there, Zurich's out there, Munich out there, and then the Bermuda. We have a lot of fun. All the Bermuda reinsurers are out there as well. Then there's the issue of nuclear verdicts. We had the Warner nuclear verdict, and it's unfortunately common in trucking today. Is that starting to increase the adoption of the DMS systems, because it's giving these fleets a lot more data to fight these onerous court cases? Yeah, well, there's many different types of DMS systems out there, okay? And that's the fleet management type topic, where the fleets are dialing right in for driver behavior and improvement topics, on top of the fact that there's an insurance element to record the accident or the event that occurred. This is accident recording, that's another big one. And it's also gaining ground, in the vehicle itself. From the architecture standpoint, from the OEM side, we're seeing a lot of interest now in putting that in standard. But again, the fleets are putting these systems in almost 10 years now at that level, and putting cameras in the cab. It's been well noted. But again, tying it to the actual truck systems, where that's what we step into, where we say we can help the vehicle avoid an accident. This is where DMS systems and level 2, level 3 autonomy or our safety system with radar camera can really help
really deter these accidents, and then you can actually do something about it with the vehicle by acting. You pull a vehicle over, or you can stop the vehicle, you can get the accident not to happen, and that's accident prevention. And these is what these systems are all about.
When it comes to developing the active safety system, is that your customers, partners coming to you asking you to develop this, or are these the really smart men and women, the Continental labs that come up with a better way to do something and then you commercialize it?
It's all the above. I mean, we partner with the OEMs. They have their own use cases, their own ideas. We have our own. We become experts in certain niches of technology like radar and camera and also software stacks and hardware industrialization and hardware manufacturing. These are some of the areas that Continental are really strong in. But also, there's always an element of the OEM, putting their own signature on it because they have their own ideas, and it's like also the DNA of the truck. The OEMs have their own DNA, each one of them, right? Who's doing it better? That's the marketplace, right? So who will win? So we're helping each one of them do it, but there's also a level of DNA that they're putting in the vehicle themselves as well.
That's really interesting. So you sell them a product, they can modify it or enhance that product, and that's doesn't violate any warranties or anything?
No, mostly it's done with software, right? So how they look at the data, how they look at the point cloud that it's bringing into the vehicle from radar or camera. So these areas, each OEM has their own, like when to apply the brakes, when not to apply the brakes, when to warn the driver, when not to warn the driver, right? These are the DNA of the vehicle the application of our technology in the vehicle, right? So no doubt in my mind, that you get into a Chevy or you get into a Mercedes, there's a difference, right? I think you've seen it, right? Same thing in trucking. If you get into a Peterbilt or you get into a Daimler or you get into a Navistar or Volvo or Mack, each has their own environment and their own safety profile and how they implement certain things as well. But I wouldn't say they're all the same. I would say that each maybe application of that vehicle, maybe it's a garbage truck, maybe it's a yard mover, maybe it's an on-road vehicle. Each has probably its own safety profile that they have to really approach differently.
That's a really wonderful analogy. I haven't driven a Class 8, but I've driven pretty much in every Class 8 that there is, both autonomous and non-autonomous. And you can just feel from the ride. I haven't driven it, but from the ride, you can feel the way that it accelerates versus decelerates. And you can kind of get, I like this one better, I don't like that one. So it goes into consumer preference. Continental's in a really, I would call it a special place. You have 1 foot in traditional trucking. You have 1 foot in autonomous trucking. How do you view these two markets complementing each other?
That, like I said before, the technology that we're learning on the autonomous side is going to carry into better and improved safety systems for in-driver cab, the seat, driver in the seat, I would say, right? Trucks. So, and they're not going away anytime soon. And there's no, I don't think there's a threat to the drivers of trucks. We're going to wipe out the entire drivers with autonomous vehicles. I think there's a use case in every scenario for every fleet to have so much autonomous and so much not. And that's going to play out in the next 30, 40 years, right? We'll see where that goes. But, right now, you look at the first use case, it's hub to hub for autonomous, and that's a smaller percentage of the fleet usually. And the rest of the vehicles are not hub to hub, right? I mean, 90% of the fleet is probably something else. It's
going to change. And I say this all the time. If you start a job as a truck driver today, you can retire as a truck driver, point blank.
That's probably a safe bet.
Oh, thank you. When you look at fleets, you have a lot of interaction with fleets. Are there any discussions where they're going to operate a hybrid fleet where, hey, we're going to put, say, 2% autonomous, 3% autonomous, 97% human? Are there any conversations that you've heard about them operating hybrid fleets with both autonomous and human-driven trucks?
Yes, that's exactly what is mentioned. The fleets have that in their model. They are also not 100% sure yet that this is going to really fix their problem. They're testing it right now, but I say it's being pretty positively accepted by the fleets that this will be somewhat of a game changer, especially hub to hub, dedicated routes in the southern states. as a first step, right? And then we have to see how this grows from there, and the technology improves and the safety profile improves. Then it'll go more and more into not just hub to hub, maybe down into the last mile delivery. I don't know. This is still to be ferreted out. And I believe it's an exciting time to be in trucking.
It's a very exciting time. It's going to become, even for you and your shareholders, become an extremely profitable time. And it'll start in Class 8. It'll work its way down into other things. It will get to last mile at some point. I'm not going to give a timeline. I don't know. The technology's still not there. It's being developed.
Me either. Yeah.
But it will get there. There's a lot of discussions now where you can talk to every one of your customers. You can read their blog posts. You can go on their X accounts or their LinkedIn accounts. Dallas to Houston. That's where we're going, Dallas to Houston.
Yes.
It's just, I'm like, okay, how are you going to make money in that lane? It's going to be commoditized. Can't get an answer on that. Outside of the Dallas to Houston lane, what other lanes do you see being some of the first to adopt autonomous trucking? Yeah,
back to my comment before. Southern states, because really the profile for weather is still an unknown, right? And I think the autonomy topic is what's holding it back to go even further is that last 10% of unknown that they're trying to solve for. I still believe that that somehow that vehicle has to be monitored by a data center saying, I see the truck and it's going to warn the data center if it sees something it can't solve. And then that data center has to, that drone pilot, for a truck, has to get on that vehicle and help solve that problem. And then they learn from it, and then they can capture that data and then make the correction. That's happening every day, of course, and it gets better and better. But Murphy's Law is always a difficult topic there. So you do see some examples of that in like San Francisco, where the cars gets jammed up somewhere. They can't really figure it out, but then the autonomous center would then the drone pilot would pick it up and then move the car out. That's something that last 10%, and maybe it's even less now. I'm not sure, because you never know. Every vehicle manufacturer and autonomous manufacturer has their own percentage that they haven't solved yet in their mind, but at the end, that this is where we can take the vehicle, and the vehicle is in the southern states in the first step.
On that topic, how do you see fleets integrating hydrogen and electrification into their fleet mix?
Yeah, so I take this. I'll just tell you my being in an SAE, it gives you great knowledge about different things that are coming. And I remember one year at the SAE Convec event, we heard from a lot of manufacturers saying, "Hey, we're going to be completely electric by 2035." And I'm like, "Wow, that's a statement, right?" And now in this last year's SAE Convec, I would say I heard very clearly all the above, right? All the above. That's the messaging I hear now across the board, right? And you hear some of the quotes out there from the Toyota chairman even saying that the EV won't be more than 30% of a car market. I don't know if that's true, but that's his take on it, and I'll just use him as a quote. But what I see is the same thing, right? There's an application and a business case that makes sense for EV, hydrogen vehicles, hybrid vehicles. Now you see the hybrid vehicles on cars is really taking off. I mean, this is where we went too fast, right? We didn't have an evolution. We have a revolution. Now we're back to an evolution. And really what we're seeing now is hybrid vehicles and cars is really taking off because the business case makes sense even for the consumer, right? And I know I rented a car in Milwaukee one time. I drove it from the airport and back to the appointment. And I came back, I still had a full tank of gas. I mean, that's compelling, right? But also I don't have to worry about range anxiety. So I like that one. I said right now, the next 10 years, that's something on my radar as a consumer. So same thing on trucking. Trucking has the fleets, and they have to make a business case work no matter what, right? So if this vehicle has every day going to be someplace different, someplace new, has the infinite number of load types and weights, it has weather to consider, it has to, that EV or hydrogen and where you're fueling it, how long the vehicle has to sit, these are all play into the business case. Also price. The EV trucks are very expensive, right? They're maybe twice as much as a normal ICE engine. So this also plays in. So again, business case. And fleets are very driven by the bottom line. And if you can expect, if you make a financial decision based upon where the market's going, you're going to be a safer bet than anything else.
Yes, their margins are very thin. I love your analogy, all the above. As you talked about a past convex, do you expect that to see a continuing trend at this year's convex in September?
I do. More than ever. I mean, if you look at some of the technology that's launched, the hydrogen engine with Cummins and other truck manufacturers, this is telling, right? I mean, actually, an ICE engine that runs on either hydrogen or natural gas or ammonia, or there's all these different business cases out there now for different fuels. And so, and I love that they can, Cummins can make an engine that almost do anything. So that's pretty cool. And that's where the business cases are coming in play, because also that technology in that vehicle is not much different than a diesel engine. So the entire technician marketplace is used to working on that vehicle, right? That's another big one. I come from a family of automotive technicians. So my father owned his own shop, and at the end of the day, somebody's got to service those trucks, and they have to be trained, and that's also factored into the business case about buying a truck that's an EV or specialized training and all that stuff that has to go along with that vehicle.
There's the maintenance is the big issue. SAE is working on a consortium for the autonomous truck standpoint, because you're right. If you have a diesel engine, a battery engine, now you throw in your, let's call it, industrialized sensors into the mix. Whoa, boy, that's a whole new skill set. And your customers, as you clearly articulated, they might deploy it a different way. So you have to have a technician that's qualified to work on all that. Continental will be at Convex this year. For the individuals that are going to attend Convex, what can they expect to see? And most importantly, what do they expect to hear from Continental?
Yeah, so we're going to be there, and we're hosting it. It's been a real honor to do it this year and sponsor this event. And we're having our full court of executives come in and our technology people to talk in different parts of the Convex. So please come out and listen to this and join the SAE Convex, because this meeting is really a place for everybody to get together, academia, industry, government, fleets, and man, you hear it all. And I really learn a lot every Convex, and it actually even drives my decisions usually for the next year about where we're going, and I help shape strategy inside Continental based upon what I even hear at this marketplace, because it's really, you're putting your finger on the technology marketplace and having that discussion across multiple OEMs, multiple tier ones, and all the governments and fleets and the colleges at this event. It's really fantastic.
You're getting these priceless insights from Convex that are helping you set strategy, and I love this, the all of the above theme. I'm going to keep going on that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
The future, it's uncertain, especially when it comes to powertrains. If you have to make strategy decisions, how are you preparing for that future? Because as you articulated, we're all in uneven. Whoa, wait a second. Oh no, we're going to explore everything. How do you prepare for that uncertain future?
Yeah, it's good for us because we really been doing this for so many years. Is like, think about it as a vehicle controller. We build vehicle controls, right? And one of the ones we make is one that marries up to a truck, and then you can put any engine you want in it, and it automatically can be reprogrammed to accept that powertrain. And that's one of the specialties that Continental has been doing, and it's part of our legacy. And so now you just, instead of putting in a ICE engine, you put electric in, or you put a hybrid in, or you put a fuel cell in, and we can marry that truck up to that with software and hardware and make it a seamless integration.
Do you have to prepare for power draw? Mr. Jim Farley gave a speech at the Aspen Institute recently, as of a couple days ago actually, where he talked about the traditional way of wiring a vehicle, where he said our suppliers will go out and get the cheapest one. He said, but now it doesn't matter. I'll pay a little more. I need the lightest, because of the weight that it's going to put on the vehicle. And with electric vehicles, power draw becomes an issue. Are you having to take into account the potential power draw as you're building out your strategies?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 24 volt, 12 volt. I mean, there's some OEMs now launching a 24 volt system, which in cab, right? Which is something new. You can use lighter wire load, less amperage being driven through the vehicle. But the power systems, of course, drive systems are going to be the heavy amperage wiring and the heavy gauge wiring. But the higher voltage you go, the lower the size of wire you need. Same thing in the vehicle cab. So you're seeing some manufacturers now launch for the first time a 24-volt truck architecture.
It's going to be interesting. That's the one thing we can agree on. It's going to get interesting. Continental will be there to supply the parts that are needed to usher in the future of trucking. Phil, in your opinion, what does the future of trucking look like?
The future of trucking is safer, more efficient, cleaner. These are the hallmarks of the future for us, right? And we're trying to help get our customers their mission done, and that's their mission as well, right?
Safer, efficient, cleaner are wonderful hallmarks.
Yes.
They're hallmarks that Continental can stand behind. As we look to wrap up this insightful conversation for today, what would you like our listeners to take away with them?
I like them to take away that Continentals is a good partner and steward of our globe, that we're driving these safety systems for a safer tomorrow. And on top of that, we're here in a cleaner tomorrow. And on top of that, we're happy to help in the Convec topic. And this year, we're really honored to help sponsor and host this event and drive these topics as software is driving all our vehicles in the future more and more with high compute modules. And Continental's there in the Convec to show you what we can do there as a software-defined vehicle. And that's going to be one of the main themes in the Convec this year for SAE. And please come out and please tell your engineering groups inside each OEM, Tier 1, and other areas, government and fleets, that please join us and learn something. I mean, it's really an impactful week.
Be sure to join Continental SAE's Convec. You'll learn a lot. Perhaps you can help set your strategy. But for today's conversation, Continental is a good partner. Continental is building the future. Today is tomorrow. Tomorrow is today. The future is Continental. Phil, thank you so much for coming on SAE Tomorrow Today.
Thank you, guys. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to SAE Tomorrow Today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please kindly rate and review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback is invaluable to us as we work to produce world-class content. Be sure to join us next week as we explore the latest in battery technology and analytics that will accelerate the transition to a battery-powered world.
SAE International makes no representations as to the accuracy of the information presented in this podcast. The information and opinions are for general information only. SAE International does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast.